How are we doing, Oriole fans, Raven fans? Thank you very much for joining us here for the Ravori Sports Podcast for fans like me. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. July 13th, we're going to get right to it. Marlins and Orioles game is going to be there. After the game, we're going to do an instant reaction, and we're going to go ahead and cap the MLB draft. Who are the Orioles going to take? We're hoping it's not another outfielder this year, so we're going to do that. Real quick, Genesis Notary Services /Facebook.com. Just got off a notary appointment. Thank all of you in Winchester for doing that as well. Ravori Sports at Gmail. We're going to go ahead and do that. Definitely, too, if you want Orioles and Ravens hats, we can go ahead and get that for you. Also, to look for our links at Fanatics. And now we have the king. I was just calling him the king of Orioles Twitter. This guy is one of the biggest rabid Oriole fans we know we've ever seen, follows every game, tweets. How many tweets do you do during an Oriole game? At least, 30? Like something like that? I mean, a lot, man.
No. It just depends on the game. Sometimes I go a little crazy, but usually just a couple, really.
All right. So this guy has savage work ethic. So we want to welcome Rick Arnold here tonight. Definitely here. Thank you. How are you tonight here, Rick?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, buddy?
I can't complain, man. Blessed and highly favored. That's all we can do, man. Rick, so Orioles, obviously not the way we wanted it to go this year, right? Last year in the playoffs the last 2 consecutive years, and start was abysmal. A little better, I think lately. I think at the start here, I want to talk about Adley and Gunnar, right? I think that's the biggest problems that we've had. Gunnar, I'm still waiting. I mean, he's really not what we've seen, and Adley's on the shelf. Where are we with these guys here, Rick, in general? Supposed to be the 2 guys that are supposed to be leading us to core of the franchise.
Well, let's start with Gunnar. I think he's fine. He had an injury coming out of spring training, so he had a little bit of a slow start. And even when he did have a slow start, he was still hammering the ball. He just wasn't finding any holes. But as of right now, he's batting like 278. He's leading the team in hits with 75. His home run numbers are a little down. And, his glove hasn't been perfect, but I still think that, he is a star and he's the best player on our team. Jackson's giving him a little bit of a run for the money, but Gunnar's still Gunnar, and I think Gunnar's fine. I think he'll just keep getting better throughout the season, and he gets hot and he can bust off 20 home runs. So I'm not worried about Gunnar. Adley, he is doing good too. I mean, he's hurt right now, so there's that. But he came into the spring training looking a lot better, and his batting's coming around, but him being hurt really does hurt because as Adley goes, the team usually goes. When they brought him up in 22, everything changed. So we really need to get him back healthy, and things will really look up. We can get him going, and that's been the story of the Ravens in 25. The injuries. It really started last year, so that's the big thing. You lose a Bradish, you lose a Wells, just getting Bautista back. You lose a Grayson. Nobody's going to be able to recover when 3 of their best pitchers are on the shelf hurt. So that's pretty much where I'm at with that.
I think a lot of Oriole fans, and I know you really got your finger on the pulse of things. Has the Oriole fan base lost faith in Adley a little bit? All the clamoring for Sam Basayo, I think some of that is rooted in we no longer believe that Adley's the guy that's going to take us in the future. I don't think the organization thinks that at all. I don't think they think that, but I think a lot of fans are that. Do you think it's rooted in that?
I believe the fans have lost a little confidence because he did struggle a bit last year. They said he wasn't hurt, but I still believe he might have been hurt. He just looked a lot better this spring. He looked like a different player. So Adley comes back, he gets hot, and everything will be forgiven. But him being out, and you see what Sanchez is doing, it should make people realize how important Adley is and appreciate him a little more.
Yeah, I caught that one there, Rick. As far as that goes, we've had a management change here. Okay, so you're always seeing your tweets. You're the very positive in general. You kind of root for all the guys. You're not real negative as far as that. Brandon Hyde was let go early in the year. Just tell me what you thought of Brandon Hyde as a manager when he was the manager for the Orioles. How did you react to that?
I like Hyde a lot. I thought he was a good manager. The players really like him. I just got really frustrated that he wasn't playing Jackson on a consistent basis, and just the left-right thing. I mean, I know he had a method to his madness, and I don't know how much Elias in the front office was in his ear, But that was the biggest problem I had with not getting consistent plays out of the Stars. Now,
Did he freeze up?
okay, yeah, Hyde. Like I said, the players really like Hyde, and I the only problem I had with him is not playing the Stars consistently. He was hung up on that batting right-handers against left-handed pitching, and wasn't playing the Stars. And you see what happened once Jackson's Holiday started getting steady at bats, and Gunnar and the rest of the guys. So that was the biggest thing with that. I think he was kind of the scapegoat because of the problems, they started out the season so rough. And again, we can go back to the injuries with that. And they just weren't playing well. So I think at the time we needed a change of a different voice in the clubhouse. So unfortunately, he had to fall on the sword, but that is what it is, I guess. Masayo, I still don't know what I think about Masayo, honestly. I like him, but it's just a small sample size. I haven't been happy a couple times he hasn't played Jackson Holiday. I know I keep going back to that, but the guy's a future superstar, and he needs to be playing every night. So,
I mean, we could take the future off, maybe. He might be the all-star team right? This year. I think him and O'Hearn have been the only bright spots. Watching Jackson Holiday grow up right before us and getting Ronald Hearn the way he's played, that's been it for us. We haven't had anything else.
Well, I would put Gunnar in.
Maybe further than I would go, but those have been the biggest bright spots for sure, at least on offense.
Yeah, they have been exceptional, no doubt. But Brian don't play every day, so I mean he has maybe 55, 58 games where Jackson and Gunnar got probably 78 to 80, so somewhere in that range. But yeah, I agree they are very bright spots, but Gunner's still the guy in my opinion.
Gunnar is not really driving the ball from what I can see. He's 270, 280, decent stuff, but he's not really. We want more production. I think they have to have more production from him if they have a chance of being a really, really good team. And he's just kind of not. He's at 29 RBI, 24 RBIs or something like that. Has some home runs. A lot of singles, I think, from Gunnar. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Still, yeah, I mean, we're kind of spoiled, let's be honest. He had, 43 home runs last year and 29 the year before. So we're not seeing the big hits. But the average is up. Batting 278, that's nothing to That's not too shabby. So, and you got for RBIs, you got to have somebody get on in front of you. So you can't all lay that all on Gunnar. But like I said, you just wait. Gunnar heats up. He can knock out. He can hit 20 home runs. We still got half a season to go. With him being injured coming out of spring training, it definitely made him have a little bit of a slow start. So I am totally confident in Gunnar, though. And I feel like, he's a big piece of it. But you're right. We haven't had the 40 home runs. He's at 8 or 9. So, but he'll heat up. He can still hit 30 home runs this year easy, which has always been a good benchmark for, a power hitter. So.
Mike Elias, like as Raven fans, we know Ozzy we trust. We used to say that. EDC we trust. Mike Elias, how much faith do we still have in Mike Elias? He can draft offensive players. I'll defend that all day long. There's no evidence of that. He's had good offensive players. I think he's good at that. But we haven't seen pitchers. Some of the other things. How much faith do we have nowadays in Mike Elias?
I'm willing to give Mike another shot. I feel like he thought that he would have Grayson this year. And with what's his name leaving? I'm blanking out here.
Eflin?
No, not Eflin. Our guy that left went to.
Corbin Burns. You're talking
with Corbin Burns leaving. Everybody was mad at him for that, but Corbin was never staying. He built a house last year out in Arizona.
Corbin was never going to sign long term.
He was never coming back. I would have liked him to go out and got Crochet or maybe a Freed or something in the out season, and he didn't do that, which was disappointing. Oh, everything's blanked out now because we lost power. But anyhow, I digress. I'm willing to give him another shot. I think if he goes out and signs a pitcher and we start having some success, all will be forgiven. But when you're not doing well, the people are going to be not happy. It's just the way it is.
We talked a little bit about Basayo as well. Basayo, I don't particularly don't agree with. I'm fine with the fact that they're leaving him in minor leagues because if you still think Adley is your guy, how much he's going to play, and then you're going to send him back down. But go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you were talking. Go ahead.
I was going to say you got to remember he's only 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very young, and he's got all the potential in the world. We've seen the power, but they want him to. He's hitting like 265 or something. They want to see him breaking in the minors. They want to see him up around 300, and they want to give him a lot more experience behind the dish. They don't want to ruin him. Emergency, maybe they see him. We see him, and if we're not in it later in the year, it's a good chance to bring him up. But we don't want to bring him up and give him a bat here and a bat there. When we bring him up, we want to be able to let him hit every day, because it takes these guys 60, 70 games to get comfortable. You look at Jackson, you look at Gunnar, all of them. It takes a while to get comfortable. There's a big, big difference between the minor leagues and the big leagues,
And that's what was so frustrating with Jackson. They would just kept taking him out. I kept saying it, and I saw you were saying it too. Why are we still taking Jackson out all the time, right? It almost took all these injuries, or we still wouldn't know, maybe. I think of it like we still have they were almost forced to play him because of all the injuries. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Rick.
You see what happened when they left him in is all I was saying. You see what happened once he got some consistent playing time. He started getting comfortable, got a little confidence, and that's what it takes. You bring a guy up, you sit him down, you bring him up, you sit him down. It's a lot of baseballs up here. It's mental. So
guys playing, and I think it kind of segues me to my next point. Like a guy who also got some playing time elongated because of the injuries was Heston Kjerstad. And unfortunately, we got the bad news there. Wasn't ready to play, didn't play well defensively, hit under 200. Mayo is still kind of waiting. I think we're still a little too early to tell, but I still think he's now getting a chance to play. what's your faith level in Mayo? Do you think that all of our I don't know how much more of a chance he gets after this. Like, because Mountcastle's probably not going to be back for a while. He's going to be at first base for a while. So, what's
he's
he?
got,
What are you?
he's got all the potential in the world. I feel like if he gets comfortable, he's got all the potential in the world. But that's the thing. Until you do it in the big leagues, whatever happened before doesn't matter. So he's getting his chance now with Mountcastle being out hurt. He's just got to take advantage of it. And he looks like he's getting more and more comfortable to me. He's hitting the ball well, but there's just no way. You can't judge these guys till they've had a good sample size, 100 at bats, It's just not fair to judge these guys off with 20, 30, 40, even 50 bats. You give them 100, you pretty much know what you got. Usually. I mean, that don't mean they still can't develop more. Like Heston, he's got probably at least 100, so he didn't really take that step that they were looking for. And with his struggles in the outfield, it made his leash a little shorter. So I don't know if they're going to give him another shot or not. I guess the jury's still out on that. We'll see what they do.
All right. Without saying Cal Ripken, who is your favorite Oriole? Not just on this roster, but anywhere. Tell the people out there who is Rick Arnold's favorite Oriole you ever watched.
Well, when I was a kid, it was Boog Powell. He was a home run hitting fool, and Jim Palmer. I was a big Jim Palmer guy. I would say they were probably my two favorites. And Brooks Robinson, got to put Brooks in there. I'm 61 years old now. So I've been watching the Orioles since 1970. Well, 5 years old. So I know a lot of the old guys.
Jim Palmer, I think, probably is the smartest person in the history of the game in terms of pitching. I don't think there's anybody anywhere who knows more about pitching than Jim Palmer. I mean, you listen to the broadcast. By the way, I think fans actually take him for granted in the broadcast.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you don't know what you're missing. Like, this guy is brilliant in terms of the game of baseball as well.
And he's still sharp as a tack. Sharp as can be.
I say about Jim all the time. I see, like, during the broadcast, I say he looks like he can still steal my wife. Like he's 70. Like he's 70.
You're telling me he's a treasure. But I tell you, when I was a kid, every little girl I hung out with, they had a picture of him in his underwear in their bedroom. So I gave him a hard time about that.
Yeah.
I got a few laughs from him about that. So he's a good sport. Jim's sharp cookie. Though.
What is the greatest Oriole team that we've had? Since you can go back to the real heyday of the Orioles. I kind of like. I'm a little bit younger than you. 83, I was a little kid. I watched the World Series. One of my first memories was Dempsey hitting the homer. I was in my aunt's house, and I was just like a little kid.
Well,
you actually saw the heyday of the Birds.
I
the
really did.
To 80, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Honestly, I was just too young in the early 70s to really know what was going on. I knew I liked Boog Powell because he was hitting home runs, and I knew I liked Jim Palmer because, he was Jim Palmer. And I knew I liked Brooks Robinson because he was flashing on leather. But when I really started paying attention was around 77, 78, 79. And then we had some really good teams in them years. But I had to say 83 was probably the best year for me. Of course, we won the World Series. My schoolmate was on the team. So I went to school with the Ripkins. I went to high school with them. Billy graduated with Billy in 82.
Oh, wow.
I was good friends.
You live in Aberdeen?
Yeah, I'm from Aberdeen.
Oh, okay. All right, nice.
That's why I always I felt like I had a connection to the team. I was really good friends with their brother, Fred. He was the middle brother. Freddie was a hell of an athlete. A lot of people really thought Freddie was the best athlete in the family. Strongest, I'll tell you that much. Great guy. He was a crazy guy, wild and crazy guy, you know what I mean? He would rather ride wheelies down Route 40 at 60 mile an hour than play baseball. That was just Freddie. Unfortunately, we lost Fred a couple of years ago. He passed away. But we were really tight when we were young. I used to run around with him. And I went to school, all the way through school with Billy, probably from, I guess my first memories of Billy was middle school. But, me and Billy, we were friends. We weren't super tight or anything, but we were friends. We used to mess with each other a little bit.
Did you know Cal Sr.?
I did. I wouldn't say I knew him, but I've met him a couple times, and I met his wife, Vi. His wife, Vi, used to have coffee with my mom in the mornings. So I kind of know the whole family, as much as you can from a distance. Freddie, I ran around with him a lot. Went to school with Billy a lot. Used to go walk over to the high school. The middle school is only a couple hundred yards from the high school. So when I was in middle school, I would walk over and watch Cal play in high school. And, man, he was awesome. He was awesome. He pitched. He played second base, I think, his 9th grade. And I believe he started pitching in the 10th grade. And he was awesome. He'd hit 20-plus home runs. And he had, like, at least 4 or 5 different pitches by the time he was probably in the 11th grade. He had, like, the splitter, the fastball, the curveball. I mean, Cal was just a prodigy, you know what I mean? But his dad, Cal Sr., you look at baseball history, and he's a big part of it, He had big influence on Jim Palmer.
There was a moratorium on Cal's number senior, and I had almost forgotten about it until Jackson Holiday wore it.
Yes.
So they actually, the Holiday family actually asked the Ripkins, hey, could you what do you guys think Jackson was to wear number 7? I had totally forgot it had been that long since anybody had wore number 7.
Yeah, I didn't realize it either until everybody started talking about it. But yeah, that was a really good story. I liked the way they handled it. They saw it as an honor, because he's a good kid and they wanted him to wear the number. And it brought a little attention to Senior, to people to realize and remember Senior.
That's exactly what they said. Like, this is okay. People can remember Cal Sr. by seeing the number. They haven't seen it in so long.
Did you ever tune into the Ryan Ripken show?
Ryan Ripken show? I have seen Ryan Ripken show plenty of times. I think, it's interesting. It's not what I thought it was in a good way. He's not just a baseball guy. I mean, he is obviously during the baseball season, but it's a lot of Ravens, a lot of college, and everything as well. Very, very prepared he is, Ryan. Real positive, too.
Ryan's done great. I really like that kid. He's good people. I'm telling you. He's got the personality. He's done wonderful with the show. When he started out, there was like 3 of us watching him. And it was great. I really got to know him, And he's just skyrocketed with his success, and mainly due to his personality. He's just got a great personality, and of course, he's a Ripken. If you're raised by Cal Ripken Jr., you're going to know baseball. And he played minor league ball. He was a good ball player in his own right.
Played with Cedric Mullins and a lot of the guys on the team now that were minor leaguers. He never got to the majors. But he played with him in spring training. But he played, he was a good enough player where he knows a lot of these guys personally.
Oh, he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff. He could have a few injuries that probably held him back a little bit, or he might be on a big league roster right now. But all that being said, he's got a wonderful personality.
I haven't heard one person that's met him say anything bad about him.
No,
I don't know. I've never met him or anything like that. But like you see it like on his show, where he's very positive, and everybody that I've talked to that's talked around, it's like, man, Ryan's just this great guy, this great positive guy.
Class act all the way. I really like the kid. I mean, I really think a lot of them. I feel like we're close friends, even though it's usually through the internet 99% of the time. But I've gotten to know him, and he really cares about the people who watches the show. And he puts a lot of content out. You can go on Instagram, Spotify, TikTok. He's everywhere now. He started out with hardly any following, and just through hard work and dedication, he's had millions and millions of views. So Ryan's going somewhere. I can tell you that right now.
So you mentioned the team in 79, 83,
Yes,
and
sir.
all of that. My favorite team was the 89 Orioles.
Oh yeah,
Really the mojo, the why not team, right? The
yeah.
team that um, still to this day, last weekend in Toronto, man, had we won one of those games, one of those close games, man, we would have been in the playoffs even now. So that was something there. What's your favorite team that you watched during the course of a whole Orioles season? I know you've been watching for a long time.
Well, of course, I got to say '83 because we won this World Series and Cal broke out. And I just felt a special connection to that. But I got to go with '96, '97 too. When we had the Bashers. I can't remember the number, but we had a ridiculous amount of home runs. We had Palmeiro.
8 guys with
Brady
20 home
Anderson,
runs that year. 8 guys.
Calvin,
8, BJ Surhoff and all those guys.
BJ Surhoff. I mean,
Yeah.
that team was explosive. They were fun to watch. I don't know. Every year, that has their memories. It's hard to really pick one, but I'm going to lean towards '83 and '96, '97 squad. Probably is my favorites. Although, the early '70s, they were awesome. I was so young. I kind of knew what was going on, but when you're a little kid, I'd rather be outside throwing the ball, hitting the ball myself when I was that age. But I did watch them. And I was, like I said, Big Boo Powell, Brooks Robinson, Jim Palmer, Steve McNally. I mean, they had some guys.
Brooks, he's another one I remember as an announcer. As much as I did as a player. Like, as a player, he was done in the 80s. But Brooks was on the mic, him and Chuck Thompson on Channel 2, right?
Oh,
so
I love
you used to watch. Yeah, it was. They finally did move on from Chuck. I felt bad for Jim Simpson because everybody was just mad there was no Chuck.
We've had some good broadcasters through the years, I tell you.
Oh, you got 2 guys for sure, and Chuck's in the Hall of Fame. John Miller. I don't know if he's already in. He's in the Hall of Fame, but yeah, for sure. Joe Angel, I thought, was outstanding as well for a long time. Joe Angel.
Going back to that early '70s team, it's hard to believe they had 4 20-game winners. That's insane. Can you imagine that now?
No, there's
these
no
guys were
such
pitching
thing.
9 innings. You know what I mean? They were pitching 9 innings.
I was just talking on the channel this week about Caden Anderson in the College World Series and watching that. He had 130 pitches, with 9 innings. Very, very War Daddy-like stuff. And that was all the time back in the 80s and 70s where guys would pitch to that level. And so that's what was cool for me to see that as well. No, you will not see that nowadays. Guys, like, if they get 90 pitches, that's about it. Oh, we got to take them out. No matter what. I'm asking a lot of baseball fans this question. I'm really curious to know what you think because you actually saw more of Pete Rose than anything else. So Rick Arnold's voting. Is Pete Rose getting in the Hall of Fame?
I say yes, especially with all the betting now going on in sports. Now, at the time, that was taboo. You didn't bet. And I understand why they banned him. But after, 20, 30 years, he's one of the greatest baseball players to ever lived. He's got to be in there. I think they should have let him in before he died. But, it just depends on where you're at with that. Personally, I like to forgive, especially in today's day and age when everybody's betting on baseball. Yeah, you shouldn't have done it. You were the manager. And it was taboo. And he owned it. But once he owned it, I felt like 10, 15, 20 years ago, they should have said, okay, it's been long enough. Let's let him in. But I understand it. I understand why they didn't. Because you could, back then, you just couldn't have it.
I'm more like that now that he's passed on to.
Right.
I think, I don't know what more we're accomplishing by leaving him out. And I think you're absolutely right. They get on ESPN. He should be banned from baseball. This is bad. He's for better. And now watch these commercials with FanDuel and Prize Picks. Like,
right?
There's a slight bit of hypocrisy in that. And watch ESPN bet. That's another. There as well. Let's talk about you, Rick, here as well. Rick Arnold, the Twitter the king of Orioles Twitter, 7,000. How long have you been doing this as well, as far as what you're doing, tweeting and everything like that, updating all the Oriole fans out there?
To be completely honest, I really didn't start posting until March of 24. I was on Twitter for 10 years and I never did anything but read. And then when Ryan started his show, I decided to start posting to try to bring some attention to Ryan's show. And I posted a few things and it went viral. And next thing I know, it exploded and I started enjoying socializing with people, because I never socialized with anybody for 10 years. All I did was read. I get on there, look at just football scores, NASCAR, baseball, and I'd enjoy reading what the players and the drivers and everybody was saying. And then, once Ryan started the show, and I went on his show as a guest a few times. He has his members come on once in a while. And I was like, well, I'm going to get on here and try to help Ryan promote the show. And that's the only reason I started posting. The next thing you know, boom, I was going viral with this stuff. And I don't understand why anybody would want to listen to my dumb takes, but obviously people do enjoy it. So, and I enjoy socializing with people, talking about sports. So it's just more or less for fun, and it's been a fun hobby. Started out as just trying to help a friend out, trying to help Ryan out, and it turned into something else, and here we are.
People rely on you because you're so consistent. I think even me, you never met me, right? But I think you are always the person I see always with the emojis on the posts. I think you more than anybody else. You always respond. You're always there. I think that's what's growing you to the point of that. Like,
I try to support people. I see you out here doing your thing, and that's how I got to know you. I've seen you around. You're always out here. I'm going to try to support you. We're all out here and trying to. This is fun for us. We're all trying to have fun. And I just try to support everybody and treat people like I want to be treated. And it's worked out. So I'm going to try to stay positive. It's not always easy. Don't get me wrong, but I think it helps when you're positive. People want to hear positive. Everybody can be negative, but it's hard to stay positive.
Yeah. As we get older, I see people older, they go into two buckets, right? They're either these most cantankerous people you met. They hate everything. They hate watching the news. They hate the president. They hate the mayor. They hate everything. Like, they hate the paper boy. Or they're usually more like, or they go into your pick. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. I'm a fan. I got people. I'm helping a friend. This thing like that. So you went into the bucket that I would like to go in. This guy going in my 60s or whatever. Hey man, I'm just happy. I'm helping. I'm doing all these positive things, and I think that's something that people don't always get. I think that's part of why you've grown as much as you have, because that's not always something that you get, especially on Twitter. I mean, there's real fist fights and stuff on Twitter sometimes. I've been called every name in the world. That's all right, but I'm just saying it's not everybody's always fun.
People get mad at me for being positive, like, oh, how can you say they're gonna do blah blah blah? They get all upset. It's like, man, you can pick two ways. You can be pessimistic or you can try to be optimistic. Life is short. I watch baseball because I enjoy it. It's fun. So I try to stay positive. I get frustrated just like everybody else, But after I cool down, you take that hour, you throw your shit, get mad, pound your fist, do what you ever got to do. But after that, let it go, wash it, move on to the next one. Baseball is tough. Nobody's going to win them all. Football, all sports are,
Yeah.
You got to keep working. You got to stay positive.
What is that? What is that car on your Twitter feed? You're a big car guy. You kind of make a lot of car references in your Orioles stuff. So
yeah, I'm a car guy.
Tell me a little bit about that, like your thing with cars.
That's a '68 Camaro I bought in 2000. I've been driving a '69 or '8 Camaro since 1983. I raced up to Cecil County Dragway. I'm a big car guy. I've got a '53 Chevy. I got a 2002 Trans Am Ram Air WR6, and I got my 68 Camaro. Got a little nitrous in it. I have a lot of fun with it. I'm a big race fan, big NASCAR guy, big baseball, football guy. I like to go out and wrench on the car. That's what I do in my spare time.
I didn't know they had a Trans Am in 2002. I thought that was kind of I know 80s was the craze of the Trans Am.
Last year they made them. 2000.
I was thinking something like, I was like, yeah, they can't have them. You got to have one of the last ones there.
Yep, last year they made them. They come out of the factory with 325 horsepower, and I did a little work to it. I got about 350, 6-speed, Hurst shifter. It's nice. It's actually my wife's Trans Am, but she won't drive it, so that's her. She's kind of outgrown it. She don't. I don't know why she won't hardly drive it, but I still have a lot of fun with it. Take it to the car cruise in Ocean City and the car cruises. And my dad passed away in October 22, and he left me as 53. So I cruise that in his honor and his memory. He was a car guy too. And then, like I said, I've been a Camaro guy since the early 80s. It's just always been a part of me. I had a lot of fun with it.
How much influence did they have in your sports life there? I know, like, for me, my mom didn't much like baseball, or my dad, but my mom loved to go to the stadium. She'd always tell everybody she knows she went to the Memorial Stadium I'm talking about.
Well, that's a really odd thing. Neither my mom or dad were into baseball. My dad enjoyed watching football, but he didn't play it or nothing like I did. I just got into it because my parents were divorced when I was a kid, and the neighborhood I came up in, there was a lot of kids. I lived basically between two ghettos, and so there was always kids playing ball, and that's all we did. We played basketball in the winter, we played baseball in the spring, and we played football in the fall. So, and then I joined football and played rec football all through high school. I was more of a football player than a baseball player, and I wrestled because my mom wouldn't let me play baseball. She just couldn't afford it, to be serious, to be quite honest with you. She said you have to pick football or baseball, and I picked football. I'm a football guy. Still, that's still probably my passion, but baseball's close, as you can tell.
Absolutely. Since we're talking football here, and I do want to finish here with the Ravens as well. I think the Ravens and the Bills I think this is what we're going to see in the AFC Championship this year. Ravens, I've never seen a team on paper here, but here we are in June, July here. Where are we there as far as what the Ravens are going to do? What you think is how it's going to play out this year?
I think the sky's the limit. If we can get through the playoffs without having some turnovers, I felt like the last couple of years we should have been in the Super Bowl. Turnovers have killed us. If we can get through the playoffs and we get to the Super Bowl, I think the sky's the limit. I mean, we got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. What more do you want? So I think this could be our year. I mean, Lamar's got to prove that he can get through the playoffs without having turnovers. And I don't want to put it all on Lamar because, there was more than two plays. Andrews had his problems, and it's a team sport. But I think this could be our year. It feels like we're due.
Do you think Harbaugh retires if he wins?
That's a good question. I don't. I think he enjoys coaching. I think he enjoys it. I mean, his dad was coaching. I don't think he'd know what to do with himself.
I don't think he retires as long as I think he'll be closer to retirement once Lamar's closer to retirement. I think as long as Lamar's rolling the way he is, I kind of feel the same way about Andy Reid. Like, why would he retire now when it's going to be he's going to leave more championships on the table,
right?
As well.
I'd like to see they got Derrick Henry for at least the next 2 years. I would like to see him go back to back. I know everybody would, but I can't see any reason why it can't be done. I tell you that. Really, the last 2 years, I really felt like we should have been there in the Super Bowl, but we'll see. You know, could have.
The year before still kind of stings for me. Not so much last year. I think they just had look, just didn't break the way in Buffalo. I think really
2 years ago,
Kansas City, you had it. It was set up for you. You had home. You just didn't play well that day. That wasn't. You had a superior team. You just didn't play well that day.
Absolutely.
So that was last year. That kind of was what it was. I think like had they had a better regular season record, I think maybe it would have went different. Rick, tell the people where we can find you as well.
You can find me on X, Rick Arnold. That's where I'm usually at. Come join the Ryan Ripken show. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He does it every week, 3 o'clock. Come check him out.
Definitely. I think at some point you will be watching the Rick Arnold show here. At some point.
I didn't really have a desire to do this, to be honest with you. I enjoy just talking, but I saw when you asked me to come on, I figured why not? I'd like to support you. You've been good to me, and I've seen you out here hustling. I like to see it.
All right. Well, Rick, thank you, brother. Thank you so much for joining us here. And all of you out there, thank you very much for joining us here on the Ravori Sports Podcast. Like and subscribe to all of our social media content. Thank our guest here, Rick. Definitely support him. Rick Arnold, his actual name on Twitter. Definitely every day if you want the Orioles content as well. He's on there every day, the Orioles content as well, especially football season. You'll see him on there with the Ravens. He's definitely one of the biggest supporters of the Orioles. Positive content. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Ravori Sports Podcast. Enjoy all the games. You guys have a great day.